Two women, one god of restoration, the story of the Shunamite woman and Naomi. Long ago, in the land of Israel, these two women lived in very different times. One was called Naomi, whose name once meant pleasant. The other was known as the Shunamite woman, from a small town called Shunem. Though they never met, their stories shine together like two stars in the same sky. Both women faced loss, and both discovered the God who restores. Naomi lived in Bethlehem with her husband, Elimelech, and their two sons. Her life was good, full of laughter and plenty of food. But then, a famine struck. With heavy hearts, they left their homeland and moved to Moab. There, sorrow struck again. Naomi's husband died. Naomi's sons married Moabite women named Ruth and Orpah. However, after 10 years, both sons died, leaving Naomi with nothing. Her heart became heavy and bitter. She said to her daughters-in-law, "Go back, find new husbands. I cannot give you sons." Orpah kissed her and returned home. But Ruth clung tightly, declaring, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." So the two widows journeyed back to Bethlehem. When Naomi returned, her neighbors whispered, "Is this Naomi?" With tears, she said, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Lord has made my life bitter. I went away full, but I came back empty." Far away in Shunem, a wealthy woman lived with her husband. She was kind, always ready to lend a hand to those in need. When she noticed the prophet Elisha passing by, she invited him for food. Soon, she and her husband built a little room for him upstairs, a quiet chamber with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. Elisha was touched. "What can we do for her?" he asked. "She has no child," Gehazi replied. Elisha turned to her and declared, "By this time next year you will hold a son." Her heart leaped with hope, and the promise came true. She gave birth to a boy, her long-awaited joy. But years later, that joy turned into sorrow. The boy fell sick in the fields and died in her arms. She carried him to Elisha's room and ran to find the prophet. "As surely as the Lord lives," she cried, clinging to him, "I will not leave you." Elisha prayed earnestly, and God restored the boy to life. Her tears of grief turned into shouts of joy. Naomi, on the other hand, returned to Bethlehem with Ruth, her beloved daughter-in-law. In Bethlehem, Ruth worked tirelessly, gleaning grain in the fields. By God's hand, she found herself in the field of Boaz, a kind man who showed her favor. "Who is that woman?" Boaz asked. "She is Ruth, the Moabite who came with Naomi," they said. Boaz admired her loyalty. Naomi's heart stirred with hope. Could it be? Boaz was their family redeemer. With Naomi's guidance, Ruth approached Boaz, and he married her. Their marriage was blessed with a baby boy named Obed. The women of Bethlehem rejoiced, saying to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer. This child will renew your life." Naomi took the baby in her arms, her bitter tears replaced with joy. The once empty woman was now full. Obed grew to become the grandfather of King David, through whose line Jesus Christ came. Naomi's story became a living testimony that God can turn sorrow into blessing. The Shunamite woman's journey was not over. Elisha warned her of a famine that would last for 7 years. She obeyed and left the land. Upon her return, she discovered that strangers had taken over her fields. Once again, she faced loss. At that very moment, Gehazi was in the king's palace telling the king about Elisha's miracles, especially the one about the boy raised from the dead. Just then, the woman and her son walked in. "My lord king," she pleaded, "restore my land." The king's eyes widened. "Is this the woman? Is this her son?" "Yes," Gehazi said. "This is the one." The king was amazed. He ordered her land to be returned, along with all the harvests it had produced during the 7 years she was gone. The woman who had lost everything walked away with more than she ever imagined. God had restored her son and her inheritance. Naomi lost her husband and sons. The Shunamite woman lost her son and her land. Naomi came back bitter. The Shunamite woman came back empty-handed. Yet both discovered the same truth. God restores what is lost. Naomi held baby Obed tightly in her arms. The Shunamite woman embraced her living son, representing her restored inheritance. Both stories whisper the same message across the ages. Weeping may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Although both women found comfort, there are important lessons to learn. The Shunamite woman followed divine direction and avoided famine. Be kind, like the Shunamite woman who shared with others. Be loyal, like Ruth, who stood by Naomi. Trust God, even when life is hard, He always brings back joy. Hospitality and generosity open the door to miracles. Even in bitterness, don't give up, God is working behind the scenes. Restoration may come after many years, but when it arrives, it is abundant. God uses people as instruments of His restoration, like Elisha, Ruth, and Boaz. The Shunamite woman shows us that God restores life and inheritance. Naomi shows us that God restores joy and family. Together, they prove that no matter how deep the sorrow, God is the restorer of all things. If you were blessed, please give us a like, subscribe, share, and follow so others can also be blessed.